In a world marked by growing inequalities and global crises, local governments stand at the front line of action. We face the challenge of building societies grounded in rights and driven by universal public services. The municipal movement is advancing the local social covenant. This is not just a commitment, it is a call to action. Housing is a right, not a privilege. Local governments demand policies that ensure access to adequate, affordable, and dignified housing for all. Culture is the backbone of democracy and social cohesion. We fight for cultural rights as a pillar of human dignity and collective memory. Without strong local finances, there is no local democracy. Fiscal justice and direct access to resources are essential to deliver public services that leave no one behind. The climate emergency is a human rights crisis. We must act locally to ensure a just transition that protects communities, ecosystems, and future generations. Health is a public good, not a commodity. We champion universal, community-based health services to guarantee care for all. Care, digital rights, time, and cities after dark are the new essentials. Cities and territories are reclaiming public services as foundations of democratic societies. Peace is built in our streets, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. Local governments are key actors in conflict prevention and fostering social cohesion. Hunger is a collective failure. We need territorialized food systems that guarantee access to healthy, sustainable, and locally produced food. The local social covenant secures political commitments to guarantee these fundamental rights. We are developing sustainable, concrete solutions that address today's challenges while securing a just future for the next generations. We bring local voices to global tables, ensuring that cities and territories shape international agendas through our diverse and interconnected multilateral strategies. The local social covenant is not just our strategy, it is our political determination. It is a commitment to dignity, justice, and collective action. Together, we are shaping the future through a bold, inclusive, and renewed municipal movement.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. I'm Giacomo Ricotti from the UCLG World Secretariat, and I'm happy to welcome you to the second meeting of UCLG's policy councils convened around our local social covenant, today on food systems and on climate justice. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that interpretation is available in English, Spanish, and French, and that we also have consecutive translation from Turkish to English. We also encourage you to keep your cameras on so we can all see each other and make this call as interactive as possible. So it is now my pleasure to hand the floor to Albert Jadot, Head of Policy at UCLG, for the opening segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Giacomo, and good evening and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in this second meeting of our policy councils. As Giacomo was saying, on climate justice and food systems and zero hunger. As you know, the first meeting took place last week, and there is still a third one to go in this collective dialogue that we started with our town hall, where we gather and structurally dialogue with civil society and other partners to co-create our future political mandate and political priorities that should be and will be renewed in our World Congress in Tangier next June. It's for us a very exciting process. and gathering you all policy counselors with us. It's what makes this process meaningful to co-create and make ownership of the new mandate of the organization as meaningful as possible. For this session today, I have the pleasure to introduce you for opening remarks together with our Secretary General, Emilia Saiz, the President of the Nouakchott region, Madame Fatimetou Abdelmalik. Madame la Présidente, bienvenue aujourd'hui parmi nous. Together with Anthony Berthelot, the Metropolitan Council of Nantes Metropole, and also co-chair of the UCLG Policy Council on Redefining Finance. Monsieur Berthelot, bienvenue parmi nous. With no further ado, I will give the floor to Emilia for some welcoming remarks. Emilia.
Thank you very much, Albert. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to the political representatives that are joining us today at a moment where the world is actually rethinking how it works with each other, how we can cooperate, and what we envisage to be the possible pathways for the future at a moment where we are rethinking international governance and the multilateral system that has been guiding our work over the past decades. That is exactly the moment where our century-old movement needs to demonstrate that we are meaningful, that our collective agenda is the one that should be guiding the efforts to find solutions to the challenges that we are facing everywhere and that are faced by everyone. And it is at this juncture where we need to ask ourselves difficult questions on whether our value-added proposition is the right one, whether this movement that has been seen as the interlocutor of the multilateral system still makes sense at a moment where the global agendas and the multilateral system seem to be collapsing. With those difficult questions come very interesting answers. And the exercise that we are proposing to our membership, to our political leadership, every time that we are due to come together in a Congress year, is to actually reevaluate whether our mandate is on the right track, whether we need to look at other priorities. The Pact for the Future of Humanity that we adopted in our past Congress in Daejeon continues to be valid for the movement, we feel. This is what the World Council said to us in Xi'an at the end of last year. Our commitments remain the same, and now what we need to look at is how our actions need to be shaped and what kind of fine-tuning we need to do, taking into account the new context and new realities. The answer that we are coming with is we need to continue working with organized civil society. The town hall process that we started in Durban continues to be extremely important. Organizing our partners in this type of structural dialogues gives us the strength and the vision and the added value that we need to shape a truly collective agenda. And in terms of content of that collective agenda, we think that we need to come back to the basics. We need to consider how we actually can change the lives of people that you serve from local and regional governments. And how are lives most impacted? Well, through local service provision. Public policy needs to be put to the service of people through those local services provisions. And what we are trying to identify with you, and this is the exercise that we are doing today, is, okay, how do we define the new generation of local service provision, which is the key concept that we are going to be discussing in Tangier? What are the new essentials that we need to be looking at? And what are those issues that might be sensitive and painful, but that will need to be addressed in a very pragmatic and practical manner from the local and territorial level. And so today in this structural dialogue, what we want to achieve is to hear the visions of our elected officials, the political representatives that are the heart of the movement, around very, very essential questions for the future of humanity. How do we address the climate change from a social perspective, from a human rights driven perspective? How does climate justice look like? How we can guarantee that the role of local and regional governments in the protections of the commons becomes true also for food security system? How do we ensure that we don't see nature and food or water as mere resources that we need to manage and that can be bought and sold, but actually as commons that we need to protect? And how do we organize service provision around them? So we will be hearing from all of you, and what we hope is to come out of this exercise with solid proposals to shape a truly global agenda from the perspective of local and regional government. So no pressure, but a lot of trust and a lot of enthusiasm in your vision and in your willingness to serve everyone, including us. Thank you, Albert. Back to you.
Thank you, Emilia. And as you were saying, no pressure. But one thing that I wanted to strengthen from your mention, Emilia, is the current context, and this puts not pressure, but an extra level of responsibility, I would say, to local elected leaders, given the challenges ahead and how the multilateral space is shaping and how this entangles new responsibilities for local public servants and local elected officials. So thank you very much, Emilia. I will now give the floor and switch to French for the translators to Madame Fatimetou Abdelmalik. Elle est la présidente de la région de Nouakchott et du UCLG Standing Committee on Equality Gender et la coprésidente de CGLU. Madame la présidente, c'est un vrai plaisir à vous avoir parmi nous. À vous la parole. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Albert. Tout d'abord, je voudrais souhaiter à tous et à toutes une très bonne et heureuse année 2026. Je voudrais aussi, chères conseillères et chers conseillers politiques, chers membres, chers partenaires, c'est un plaisir d'ouvrir avec vous cette nouvelle réunion des conseils politiques de CGLU. Nous nous retrouvons dans un moment décisif où notre dialogue doit se traduire en une orientation claire et un engagement politique partagé. La coalition sociale locale n'est pas seulement une méthodologie, c'est aussi une coalition politique et un processus de co-création. Elle rassemble des maires, des gouverneurs, la société civile, la jeunesse, les travailleurs de nos services publics, ainsi que nos partenaires de la communauté internationale autour des priorités communes. Le sens de ce processus est clair: réduire les inégalités, renforcer les services publics locaux et construire une société de droit qui ne laisse personne ni aucun territoire de côté. Pour nous, l'égalité n'est pas un principe abstrait, c'est un cap politique et une exigence très concrète. Égalité d'accès de qualité, accessibilité financière et de dignité dans les services, égalité réelle dans les capacités des personnes à exercer leurs droits et à participer à la politique et politique locale. C'est aussi reconnaître que les inégalités se cumulent selon les gens, l'âge, l'origine, le handicap, le statut migratoire et ou la situation sociale, et que nos réponses doivent être à la fois universelles et ciblées pour lever les obstacles spécifiques qui excluent. À l'approche du Congrès mondial et du sommet mondial de Tanger, la coalition sociale, locale et les cadres qui relient notre dialogue avec la société civile aux résultats politiques que nous voulons produire l'an prochain. Elle nous offre une manière structurée de travailler à travers les 8 piliers thématiques de la coalition et d'exprimer en tant qu'élus les priorités et les engagements que nous sommes prêts à porter ensemble. Les lettres que nous examinons aujourd'hui sont notre point d'entrée dans cette conversation politique. Elles nous permettent de répondre non seulement en tant que ville et région, mais aussi en tant que conseil politique, capable de parler d'une voix collective. Elles nous invitent surtout à préciser ce que signifie réduire les inégalités dans nos territoires. Quelles fractures sont les plus urgentes, se cristallisent et quels leviers locaux, services, régulation, budget, partenariats peuvent produire des changements tangibles. Cette étape, celle de la réponse collective des conseils politiques à ces premières lettres, est le moment où la coalition devient pleinement politique. Lorsque nous traduisons des réalités locales en engagement commun, identifions des convergences et commençons à forger le langage qui ancrera le document final de notre prochain congrès mondial, ce que nous construisons aujourd'hui constituera la manière politique centrale de ce résultat. Les mots, les priorités, les engagements qui émergent de nos échanges guideront l'agenda mondial renouvelé de ce GLU pour 2026 et au-delà. Ils créeront aussi une trace transparente de notre dialogue structuré avec la société civile et nos partenaires. Et cette transparence est elle aussi une condition de l'égalité. Elle renforce la redevabilité, rend visible nos choix et leur impact et permet une participation plus significative, y compris de celles et ceux qui sont trop souvent éloignés des espaces de décision. En outre, ce dialogue, je vous invite à garder 3 questions à l'esprit. En ouvrant ce dialogue, je vous invite à garder 3 questions à l'esprit. Premièrement, comment les priorités proposées dans ces lettres répondent-elles aux besoins de nos territoires? Deuxièmement, comment s'alignent-elles avec les responsabilités politiques que nous portons? Et enfin, comment peuvent-elles nous conduire vers une position spécifique forte, une position politique forte, cohérente et pleinement partagée pour Tanger? Je vous souhaite à tous et à toutes aujourd'hui de faire de cet échange un moment d'ambition et de clarté, un moment où l'égalité devient un fil conducteur et où les services publics deviennent très concrètement le vecteur de justice sociale pour toutes et pour tous, et la résilience de nos territoires. Je vous remercie. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente, surtout pour nous donner un cadre de procès, mais aussi pour présenter si clair les questions clés à aborder aujourd'hui avec une telle clarité. Merci beaucoup. I will now pass to Councillor Berthelot. I don't know anymore if I have to speak to you in French or English because we keep switching languages when we speak. Anthony, mais c'est un vrai plaisir vous avoir parmi nous. Vous êtes aussi, au-delà de conseiller de Nantes, le co-chair du Policy Council pour redéfinir les finances et les économies pour l'égalité. Bienvenue, à vous la parole.
Merci Albert. Je vais parler en français du coup. Bonjour Albert, bonjour Emilia, bonjour à toutes et tous. Je me joins à Fatime Tou pour vous adresser aussi mes meilleurs vœux et une très belle année 2026. Je souhaite la paix partout dans le monde, qu'elle puisse exister réellement. Il est vrai que dans ce monde trouble, eh bien, il est clairement important aujourd'hui que notre diplomatie des villes, notre diplomatie des territoires prenne toute sa place pour essayer d'infléchir, de modifier la direction que prend le monde. Alors, pour cette réunion, je vais revenir sur ce qu'a dit Emilia tout à l'heure. Il est vrai que le processus qui a été engagé à Durban en 2019 pour avoir un dialogue structuré avec des conseils politiques et la société civile organisée au sein du Town Hall, eh bien, ce tournant qu'on a créé dans cette gouvernance mondiale pour qu'elle soit au plus près des habitants et de nos citoyens et non pas très lointaine, eh bien, on l'a posé comme une construction indispensable fondée sur la proximité, la responsabilité partagée et une écoute réelle. Ce qu'on a appelé Cities are Listening est alors devenu plus qu'un slogan, mais vraiment une méthode pour construire nos mandats collectifs. Alors, cette dynamique a été renforcée encore plus à Daejeon avec l'adoption de notre pacte de l'avenir pour l'humanité, qui nous a appelés à renouveler le contrat social depuis le niveau local et à définir avec nos partenaires la prochaine ère de politique mondiale. Donc, à l'approche de notre prochain congrès mondial, la coalition sociale locale s'inscrit pleinement dans cette continuité. Cette plateforme est l'espace où nous commençons à formuler les engagements politiques qui guideront notre voie collective sur la scène internationale à partir de 2026. Alors, gardons pour horizon les discussions, les négociations autour du prochain agenda mondial pour après 2030. Il ne s'agit surtout pas d'un exercice technique, mais vraiment d'un véritable processus et de choix politiques. Il nous faut définir les responsabilités et l'orientation de notre mouvement municipal mondial pour les années à venir. Alors, ce qui nous réunit aujourd'hui, c'est la conviction que nos générations et les générations futures ont besoin d'un socle renouvelé de droits, qui soit construit à partir de nos territoires. Aussi, la coalition sociale locale est le vecteur de cet agenda local universel. Qu'il soit ancré sur les soins, l'égalité, les services publics et les réalités quotidiennes de nos communautés. Et en donnant un rôle décisif à la démocratie locale pour transformer le monde. La réunion d'aujourd'hui marque une étape importante. Elle est le moment de notre réponse collective aux premières lettres de la coalition. Ces lettres nous invitent à nous positionner, à identifier ce qui résonne dans nos territoires et à commencer à façonner les engagements qui nous accompagneront jusqu'à Tanger. Donc, je souhaite déjà remercier tous les contributeurs de ces courriers, de ces lettres, et je nous encourage collectivement, chacun et chacune, à aborder cet espace avec ambition et ouverture. Les positions que nous construirons ici poseront les bases de notre mandat renouvelé au service de nos territoires et d'un multilatéralisme local renforcé. Je vous remercie et je nous souhaite collectivement de bons échanges.
Thank you very much, Councillor, also for mentioning that explicit note on the letter, and that we are here as part of a dialogue that connects both civil society organized and our policy councils to discuss on this joint path, but also to evoke that we are looking towards a concrete milestone, which is our World Congress in Tanger in June. So thank you very much for also giving us this piece of the process and this frame. I will now give the floor to Cecile Roth from the partnerships team. She's also the focal point for gender at UCLG, precisely to introduce to us this other part of the dialogue, of the equation, to present how these letters are taking shape. Cecile, thanks, and over to you.
Thanks, Albert, and thank you all. So indeed, we will now turn to the presentation of the key messages and the key priorities highlighted in the first letters of the Social Covenant on the two pillars in focus today. So first, food systems, and then climate justice. This is, so we've said it, right? A collective process that takes shape through a structured written exchange between our policy councils and the UCLG Town Hall with organized civil society and key partners. And this is both a process of movement building anchored in this long-standing alliance, right, between our members and between civil society and key partners. And it's also a process of joint envisioning and joint strategizing meant to establish this contribution from local and regional government to the next global development agenda. And it is a dynamic and reciprocal process, and it goes in both ways. On certain pillars of the local social covenant, the first letter in this series of exchange is written by civil society, and this is the case for the letter on climate justice, when for other letters, such as the letter on food system, it is led by policy councils first and addressed to key partners who will then respond. And just as the first letters, those responses then go in both ways as well. So from policy councillors to civil society and from partners to our political leadership. So I want to start with discussing the key messages from the letter on climate justice, which is signed by Lauren Banham. Lauren is special advisor for Stop Ecocide International, and she's also the youth director of Peace Child International. Lauren, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for sharing with our policy councils such an ambitious letter, raising really key points on what it means concretely to advance social and climate justice together. So over to you for a brief presentation of the messages that you wanted to share through this letter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, as always, to the UCLG Secretariat for convening this powerful dialogue and for providing us with a platform that gives so many of us hope at a time that certainly to me feels somewhat testing. It's been a privilege to kickstart this process with the first letter on climate justice from the UCLG Town Hall as a representative of the UCLG Youth Caucus, noting, of course, the importance of intergenerational cooperation on this issue. The approach that is set out by the Local and Social Covenant gives us a really useful framework because it acknowledges that no one area of local and regional governance stands alone in a vacuum. Climate justice is an issue that certainly requires not only being addressed in the obvious and traditional areas, but also as a consideration that threads through every aspect of decision-making, viewing climate change not just as a standalone matter, but as a systemic multiplier with widespread consequences. Having met with some of the other town hall leads earlier last year, we discussed the importance of opening this process by setting out clear normative framings that establish our common ground. I felt that with the climate justice letter, it was essential that we use this first letter as an opportunity to frame climate change as a human rights issue that is both a result and driver of exploitation and inequality. Not because this is the only angle or because solutions are not an urgent priority, but because if our approaches are not built on a foundational underpinning of justice, then they'll fail to address this issue as is necessary, potentially even widening the gaps that we are aiming to address. Ensuring that you, the Policy Council, start by making a commitment to engage with this process and with your wider work, with a foundational understanding that the climate crisis both stems from and perpetuates the marginalization of vulnerable groups felt essential to this process. Because using this underpinning of justice, we're able to focus on concrete, implementable action in key areas that I outlined in the letter, such as land use, housing, transportation, waste management, and agriculture, in a way that really gets to the root of the issue. As you well know, it is you, those who are local and regional elected officials, who have an intimate knowledge of your constituencies, of who it is that's most affected by which issue, by which issues, of who are the people that are most vulnerable to the multitude of pressing threats from the climate crisis, and importantly, who is it that is least served by the current approach to tackling it? I look forward to fleshing out the areas outlined in the letter into tangible actions in our future exchanges. Local service provision has such a substantial impact on quality of life and sustainability. It's up to us to ensure that the collective commitment to this service provision is one that tackles the threat of climate change, addressing the needs of those who are most affected. I hope that you will take the time to truly consider what real and lasting climate justice would look like in your constituency, and I eagerly await your response. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And we do look forward to the responses from our policy councillors to your messages and to this, this ambition and this challenge of embedding climate justice in every area of local government action, and as well as integrating the democratic and political dimension of really making sure that who needs to be taking decisions and taking part in policy making are also those who are most affected, right, by climate change, and who really need to be at the center of our priorities on social justice. So thank you for that. And now I'd like to invite a representative of the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, to a first reaction to the letter on food systems. This letter has been led by the mayor of Chefchaouen, who is also the UCLG Special Envoy for Food Systems, as well as the mayor of Konya, who is a member of the UCLG Executive Presidency, and also the prefect of Pichincha, who is vice president of UCLG. And it is a letter that is directly addressed to the FAO, reflecting the importance of our partnership and posing critical questions or as offering, right, that could further deepen this alliance that we have between our organizations. So Isis Nunez Ferreira, you are the Urban Agri-Food Systems Coordinator and lead at FAO. It's a pleasure to have you joining us today, and over to you for a brief reaction to this letter.
Good afternoon, good morning for some of you. Distinguished mayors and colleagues, first of all, thank you, a big thank you for the invitation to be part of this process, and especially for placing food systems at one of the center of this important dialogue. We really appreciate the emphasis that you're giving to this topic, especially at this time. Let me start with one figure. Of the 2.2 billion people facing food insecurity globally, 1.7 billion live in urban and peri-urban contexts. And that figure alone challenges the old assumption that still remains that hunger is mainly rural. And it explains why these issues, especially the ones you mentioned in your letter and the vision that you mentioned in your letter, cannot be treated as side issues of urban policy. They are central to national food security and nutrition. FAO welcomes this process, particularly because it's a huge opportunity to link what local leaders can change and already change at the local level. For example, markets, public procurement, services, planning, to what countries and nations have already committed to, particularly the SDGs and the right to adequate food. In the next 5 minutes, I will briefly offer some reflections, particularly to the questions you raised at the end of your letter. I will also offer some suggestions on what FAO can contribute and some suggestions of what will be most useful outputs as a next step. Number one, on multi-level governance, how do we make the right to food real? For us, multi-level governance is fundamental for sustainable and inclusive food systems. But that right within this process becomes real only through real mandates, budgets, and accountability, and through governance that is explicitly designed to deliver food security and nutrition outcomes in a sustainable but also in an inclusive way. And what this means in concrete terms, this means institutionalizing city territory governance around food systems. These are mechanisms that connect local governments with the surrounding territories, with national institutions around a shared plan and clear responsibilities for food security and nutrition outcomes. So decisions on markets, on safety nets, on food safety, on diets, on land use, on risk management, reinforce each other rather than pulling in different directions, and sometimes even canceling each other. It's very important to institutionalize these spaces to make sure that we're all going in the right direction. One point is crucial here. These spaces should not be only for dialogue. They need to be spaces for action. Inclusive, yes, but also able to take decisions, track delivery, and maintain continuity, especially across political cycles. What FAO can contribute here is very practical. We have an important role in convening and facilitating inclusive platforms that bring the right actors together and that support you and others to bring the right actors together and move from discussions to actual shared decisions, especially to actions. We also can contribute by supporting a clear who does what map. And this is crucial when we talk about food systems, because food systems do not sit neatly in one portfolio. I think we all know this. Responsibilities are spread across many ministries, agriculture, health, social development, and so on, and many city departments as well. So when these multiple mandates that relate to food systems are unclear, there are gaps, there's duplications, and these are almost always guaranteed. So FAO is well placed to help and support in clarifying these roles because of our technical breadth across agri-food systems as well, and also because of our trusted convening role in facilitating these discussions, particularly around bringing the right actors into the discussion. We can also support in placing accountability and evidence tools. This is fundamental to really make sure that we're talking about real inclusion and real impact in food systems. This means indicators, baselines, and periodic stocktakes that show what is being implemented, whether resources match responsibilities, and whether inclusion, at least in theory, is actually improving results, particularly for those that most need it. This is also important in the current financial situation and fiscal situation that we find ourselves at as well. How do we make sure that the resources we have in a context of scarce resources, we're actually investing where the people most need it? In practice, also, data becomes an anchor for better decisions and also more credible budgets, and also more practical and fruitful discussions as well with financing institutions and also with donors. A very practical output we would see for this particular point would be a short list of governance enablers that mayors want clarified or strengthened to deliver. For example, procurement authority, data responsibilities, mechanisms for participation, accountability, and bring those into a structured dialogue with national counterparts and partners, and especially with the other set of food system actors that are fundamental for its functioning and for its inclusion as well, including civil society and private sector. Number 2, on local innovation and alignment, how do we scale beyond pilots? The second question. For us, this is a fundamental one. Local innovation in urban food system is not new. Many cities have been pioneers for years, and we have been sharing practices around them for many, many years and even decades. The challenge is that good innovations often and sometimes remain isolated or disconnected from national strategies. So they don't scale, and it's more difficult for them to be sustained over time. So local innovation really scales, in our view, when it's connected to actual system change, especially when we talk about food systems and the broad range of areas that relate to food systems in real life. In plain terms, cities can start with a practical entry point, such as procurement, markets, school meals. We're talking about services. I think many of you mentioned the importance of local services. Those can be powerful entry points, including school meals, food loss and waste, planning, or risk preparedness. But if they stay as a standalone project, particularly when we talk about food systems, results are often short-lived. System change is when these entry points, these services that we talk about, actually are designed in a way that they can lead to lasting change in how a food system functions, whether it is is in terms of its governance, in terms of its financing, or its day-to-day function. And this is important so we can ensure that these interventions and entry points can actually create multiple benefits at once, whether this is healthier diets, safer and more affordable food, stronger livelihoods, and greater resilience to shocks, which are all mentioned as important outcomes in the letter. FAO, in this sense, can support in helping turning these entry points and these services into lasting change by putting key enablers in place. And here, these enablers are very important to have concrete discussions, diagnostics and evidence to target the real bottlenecks in the food systems, coordination across mandates and levels of government, as we discussed already, proper indicators and periodic stock takes so results are visible and efforts stay on track. Typical high-impact entry points, and just to bring it back to some of the services and levers that local governments have, can include public procurement that makes healthy food part of public services while creating stable demand for local producers, traditional and wholesale market improvements for food safety that also allows for more affordable food and also create livelihoods, or food loss and waste solutions that become reliable municipal service models.
Thank you, Isis. We need to go to sort of the last ways forward that you want us to take into account.
Okay. I want to mention, perhaps I want to end with your letter calls for a collaborative platform between FAO, local governments, and civil society to co-design and scale territorial innovations. FAO strongly agrees with this, and we are very, very glad to see this as an important part of your letter. In 2024, with ICLEI, FAO convened a large collective of cities, city networks, UN partners, including UCLG, in a global workshop. It was the first time that so many actors were coming together to look at how collective action can make food systems more sustainable and inclusive. We are now in a planning phase to launch a global partnership to leverage this collective to actually deliver engine that help territories, to help transform territorial and urban food systems through three things. Through multi-level governance that actually works, building credible delivery pathways that are supported by evidence, and scaling solutions through peer learning and champions. And this is where we see UCL leadership and the majors leadership quite important for you to be able to champion a small number of territories that demonstrate how concrete system changes can actually make food systems more inclusive and more sustainable as well.
Thank you so much.
This as an opportunity to move from statements to delivery, grounded in policy guidance, in better evidence, and organized around concrete system changes that can make local action and innovation actually scale and last. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for highlighting the power of these high-impact coalitions that we have been working together on and that we want to continue expanding, right? Thank you also for reminding that in the end, as a whole, food systems are way, way more than a question of production and consumption, but are, and this is also the departure point of our discussion today, they are local and global commons. So thank you for highlighting this in the end. And now I will hand it over to Emilia Saiz, our Secretary General, to facilitate the open discussion with our policy counselors and members around both letters. So Emilia, over to you, and thank you all for your contributions.
Thank you very much, Cecile, and thank you to our partners, both to Isis and Lauren, for their commitment to work with us and for appreciating the efforts that we are making to bring these topics to the agenda. These topics are not easy. They are not easy in the current global context. They have never been easy in times of peace, but in times like the ones that we are going through, they are increasingly challenging to deal with. And yet there is a very broad consensus among our membership that it is here at this global collective arena where we need to try and find solutions that address some of these challenges. And we are daring to look at climate justice not only as an issue of reparation actually, or compensation, but looking at climate justice also as a lens that allows us to assume new responsibilities and define new services. We are also calling our membership to look at common goods like food and water. I was saying it before, as something that is not only of importance for a part of the population, but something that all of us need to be involved in their governance. And so avoiding this dichotomy between the rural and the urban that the FAO colleague was referring to is extremely important. The exchanges in the letters are going to allow us to address some of these difficult issues and identify how to transform that in local action. So I really look forward to opening the floor and hearing different perspectives. We have an amazing group of local elected officials that are going to be sharing their views with us. And allow me to start with Ugur Ibrahim Altai, the mayor of Konya and member of the UCLG executive presidency. The mayor of Konya is someone that knows what agriculture and food can mean for a territory very, very well. And at the same time, he's also very acquainted with the importance of looking at local agendas also from a global perspective. So we are very pleased to have you with us today, President. The floor is yours.
Değerli Emilia, teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you, dear Emilia, dear participants, esteemed colleagues. I do warmly greet you from Konya, which is Turkey's most important city in terms of food systems. Today, we are gathered here to evaluate the progress we have made on the issue of food systems and zero hunger, one of the fundamental elements of the local social contract, and to share our commitments. At the outset, I would like to express my pleasure at being part of important political dialogue which follows on from the joint letter we wrote to the FAO Director General Mr. Pabon, Mayor of Pintuja, and Mr. Safani, Mayor of Şavşafan. Dear friends, as you all know, our world is facing many crises. One of the most important of these crises is undoubtedly food security. We must view food not as a matter of consumption, but as a fundamental human right. This right is an indispensable element of human dignity, equality, and social cohesion. Therefore, access to food should be at the heart of public responsibility, fair governance, and right-based policies beyond the issue of humanitarian aid. For us, fundamental rebuilding food systems is more than just a goal. Food security must be taken into account in both local government policies and global goals, and multi-level coordinated political will is required to address potential hunger issues. Food security can only be achieved through production, distribution, and consumption processes led by local actors supported by strong rural-urban links. As the UCLG family, I would like to state that we have always kept the food issue at the top of our agenda. The local social contract to be adopted in Tangier and the resulting Tangier outcome document will clearly demonstrate the importance we attach to food as a fundamental human right and our political determination in this area. I would like to state also that we have taken concrete steps in the direction in my city, Konya. In this context, with our Konya model municipal practices, we are empowering local producers, encouraging cooperatives, and placing food at the center of daily life with policies that prioritize local supply chains in public procurement. This approach not only ensures food security, but also strengthens rural development, social resilience, and local economies. As the UCLG Executive President, I would like to state the following quite clearly. As the most important representatives of local and regional governments, we support the recognition of food systems as a public good and a human right, and the strengthening of policies on this right. This approach is not merely an aid-focused understanding, but a demand for systemic change based on human rights, social justice, and spatial equity. By advocating for the inclusion of local actions in global policy processes, we demand that local and regional governments be recognized not only as implementers, but also as actors that generate knowledge, design policies, and contribute to global governance. Furthermore, we consider that it is important that policies strengthening food chains, prioritizing local markets, and ensuring equitable access to land become a priority. In this regard, we believe that trade and subsidy policies need to be re-examined to support short food chains and local producers. Furthermore, I would like to express our support for creation of direct and flexible financing mechanisms that will increase the capacity of local governments, because financing models that are compatible with local dynamics, scalable and accessible, have the potential to create a high social impact even with limited resources. In addition to all these, we believe that this transformation process must go beyond the efforts of local governments or central governments alone. It must be achieved through shared governance and collective leadership involving all segments of society, particularly farmers, cooperatives, civil society, women and young people. Distinguished participants, as we head towards the UCLG World Congress in June 2026, we know that the commitments we share today will not only support local implementation, but will also build a strong local political stance that will contribute to the transformation of the multilateral system, international organizations, and global policy frameworks. As Konya, we will continue to be an active and determined partner in this process. We reiterate our commitments here with a strong voice to advance this shared vision that centers social resilience, justice, and human dignity. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much, President. Teşekkür ederim, Başkan. I always have the feeling that when we prepare these debates and these changes with our political leadership, that we run the risk of being too ambitious from the Secretariat, but then you hear interventions like the one of Mayor Altay, and then you realize that it is the membership that is making us very ambitious and that is asking us to go further and further. And I really like the connection between the different agendas that you have been putting forward, President. It is extremely important to realize that it is not a possibility to discuss climate change without discussing food security, without discussing the financial architecture. It is connected, and so it is connected also in the type of local service provision that you can provide. And I invite other members to check on our countdown story, because Konya, as part of the countdown, is telling their experience very, very well. So we have it very well documented. Allow me now, thank you, President, to go to Claire Hart, Metropolitan Councillor of Montpellier and member of the UCLG Policy Council on Local Multilateralism and City Diplomacy. Claire, it is really a pleasure to have you with us. I know that it is busy times for our French membership with elections around the corner, but we are very inspired that you want to spend some time with us and provide inputs to this important discussion. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Emilia. And you're right, yes, it is a bit busy here. But in any case, we're always delighted to take a little bit of height from the local situation and put our heads together. And I think it's very healthy. It's a good way to work. Happy New Year, of course, to one and all. Happy New Year 2026. Hope you're all, you've got off to a good start despite the difficult world situation. I would like to start by just stating a few quick facts. We know them, but we know that the world is facing a climate emergency. We know as well that the window of opportunity for decisive action to limit global warming and to strengthen the adaptive capacity of our people, our communities to climate-induced change and disasters is closing fast. We know as well that the decade between 2020 and 2030 is the most important one for ambitious policy and action. And here we are, bang in the middle. We've just gone beyond the middle, in fact. So we can see just how very, very critical the period is. When I say this, I'm thinking that number one point I'd like to make is that climate injustice impacts particularly our most vulnerable communities, and first and foremost, women and girls. And I really want to throw that out there at the very beginning. Wherever we live in the world, it's the same story. The most struck are the most vulnerable, and particularly women and girls. I want us to remember too that climate impact does not just erode infrastructure, ecosystems, the physical aspects of life, but also our rights, our collective memory, and our sense of community. And I'm thinking of all of those artifacts and even down to graveyards that can get swept away when there are extreme climate events. And it's important that we keep that in mind as well. So we need our local and regional governments to step up because once again, we know that we're frontliners in all of this and that we are impacted firsthand. So just a few call outs as local and regional governments. First and foremost, I'd like to say that we need to build community resilience through both national and community level adaptation. Once again, it's something we do all the time. We know that our local public services are actually the backbone of climate justice. And when I say that, I'm talking about land use, I'm talking about housing, waste management, transport. I mean, there is not one part of our local action plan that is not impacted in some way by climate justice or injustice and inequality. And we have to integrate as well, and I really believe strongly in this, it's something we do at our local level in Montpellier, France. We have to integrate the arts and culture, care. Care is such an important factor to the UCLG today, and social cohesion as absolute key drivers in everything that we do when we fight for equality, social equality and climate justice. We must work together to promote fair transformation of economies, development plans, policies to promote this low carbon environment. With everything that we do, it has to be cross-board. I just mentioned a whole range of different areas. We have to work, and I agree with the Mayor of Konya on this, we have to work on funding and finance capacity building. This is absolutely essential. And we absolutely must avert, minimize, and address loss and damage at all levels. So, so much to be said. I know we only have a little slot here, but in terms of food security, which again is a very important point, along with water, the management of water, both food and water are fundamental human rights. And so we have to address them as such. And we have to make sure that social justice and cohesion is followed. We must integrate local food systems into governance while reforming sales policies to prioritize local markets and equitable land access, which is absolutely essential. And the rural-urban bond is vital. We know this in our cities. We have to find ways of providing food for all. And if you could just give me 2 seconds to finish, I want to say how important it is as well that we cooperate, what we call decentralized cooperation, city-to-city diplomacy, working together, sharing best practices, finding ways of perhaps using experimenting systems elsewhere, including our local realities and vulnerabilities. And in a nutshell, I think all of us share a vision of a world which is outside the dynamics of competition, merchandisation, and supremacy, if I might say that. Our cities work for peace in the field, in our cities, and should be listened to because we need more of this kind of debate today. Thank you, Emilia. Sorry to have run over.
No, please, thank you so much. I mean, it's fresh air, actually. When you look at the current discussions of leadership that are taking place in Davos, of all places as well, you see that there is a detachment from some of the core values that we have been working on for a long time. And so to hear you all confirming our mandate, confirming issues like justice and looking at climate change as an injustice, actually, that is affecting people that are less related to the core origin of it, but also bringing up loss and damage, and challenging us to see how do we define loss and what is loss as well. The whole dimension of culture is extremely important and interesting. The team is taking notes of all of this, and we will make sure that your inputs are taken into account for the next round of deliberations. And allow me now to go to Cristian Zamora, the mayor of Cuenca, also president of FLACMA, vice president of our forum of intermediary cities. Mayor, in your reality, in your day-to-day work in Cuenca, you have had to face defending common goods in a very, very explicit manner to protect access to water, to think of nature far beyond a resource. So we really look forward to hearing from you what your thoughts are on the issues that we're tackling today. Bienvenido, alcalde. Un gusto como siempre.
Muy buenos días con todos. Un saludo desde Cuenca, Ecuador, en Sudamérica. Gracias, Emilia, y a todos quienes están, y a los colegas alcaldes y concejales. Efectivamente, yo quisiera señalar uno de los ejemplos que hemos vivido en Cuenca, que creo que puede ser una luz y un faro para otras ciudades respecto del tema de la crisis climática. Y en primer lugar, dar una idea de que la crisis climática es una crisis de desigualdad para nuestra gente. No únicamente afecta a los temas ambientales que todos conocemos, sino eso va permeando a los temas de la gente que más necesita. Y voy a entrar al caso que vivimos en Ecuador, en Cuenca, hace apenas un año atrás, y cómo la ciudad realmente reaccionó ante este tema. Hace un año tuvimos una sequía muy grande en la ciudad. El cambio climático o nos lleva a temperaturas extremas o también hace sequías extremas. Y en Cuenca tuvimos la sequía hidrológica más grande en la historia que se haya reportado. No llovió por cerca de 140 días, lo cual era un tema, digamos, no común para nuestra ciudad. Y Cuenca es el corazón energético del país, del Ecuador. Acá pasan muchos ríos que van a las represas generadoras hidroeléctricas y por lo tanto, aunque pareciera algo no común, pero aquí pasó, el Ecuador vivió hace un año atrás cortes de energía de 14 horas diarias por la falta de lluvias y obviamente las represas prácticamente secas. Entonces, ante esa circunstancia, ya se imaginarán 14 horas sin energía, los negocios, los empleos, absolutamente todo prácticamente colapsado, la contaminación que se generaba porque obviamente se trasladó la generación a un tema termoeléctrico, la contaminación en las calles, en los locales que se trataban de lograr cada uno de estos equipamientos para la generación energética y poder seguir trabajando. Eso fue lo que vivimos hace apenas un año atrás. La pobreza obviamente aumenta, el desequilibrio, la desigualdad, por un tema causado por el cambio climático. ¿Qué es lo que hizo la ciudad respecto de este tema? Nosotros vivimos en una zona que se llama el Macizo del Cajas y la UNESCO lo declaró como una zona de protección invaluable por los temas precisamente de su riqueza natural. Ahí están las zonas de recarga hídrica que dan el abastecimiento del agua a la ciudad y obviamente de los tantos ríos que conducen a las represas hidroeléctricas del país y por lo tanto la generación hidroeléctrica del país en más de un 60%. Entonces, estas zonas han estado siendo afectadas por licencias de minería legal y también ilegal, pero que al dar paso a estos procesos en estos altos páramos de una sensibilidad pues muy elevada desde el punto de vista natural, iba a complicar mucho más el ciclo del agua dentro de nuestra zona. Entonces, lo que la ciudad hizo, y a mí me tocó como alcalde también liderarlo, es defender que estas zonas de alto valor, reconocidas inclusive por la UNESCO a nivel mundial, no sean tocadas por los temas de la minería, inclusive legal, porque rompen el equilibrio del ciclo del agua en zonas muy sensibles. Fíjense ustedes lo que pasó, y aquí va quizás un segundo mensaje potente, más allá que del cambio climático, es una crisis de desigualdad. El mensaje es precisamente que la participación ciudadana es sumamente poderosa y ahí el liderazgo de las alcaldías, de las prefecturas, de las organizaciones como CGLU, FLACMA, de la cual soy el presidente, como decía Emilia, tenemos que articular para concientizar a la ciudadanía. Lo que pasó en Cuenca el 16 de septiembre, es decir, hace 4 meses atrás, el 20% de la población, imagínense ustedes en cada una de sus ciudades, el 20% de la población salió a protestar de manera pacífica sobre las calles, se inundaron kilómetros y kilómetros, no estoy exagerando, de gente diciendo que quiere cuidar sus zonas de recarga hídrica, que el agua es importante, que el oro puede darnos desarrollo, pero que a la vuelta de la esquina eso va a generar una complicación como ya la complicó en la sequía hidrológica más grande que les comenté hace unos momentos, y logramos que el 20% de la población, una cosa insólita, yo tampoco me imaginé que iba a haber una reacción tan positiva y tan grande que inunde las calles de la ciudad. Es la marcha más grande registrada en la historia que se ha dado de la gente defendiendo el agua. Yo creo que esa conciencia ciudadana que tiene que ser liderada desde las instituciones es un mensaje que quisiera compartir en este foro y que de decir que es posible que con causas justas y con una concientización a nivel, hasta los niños salían, bebés, adultos mayores, personas de 1 año, de 2 años, hasta personas de 100 años, salían, y no exagero, a poder defender lo que Cuenca hizo una concientización importante. Por lo tanto, yo creo que el tema de la crisis climática está con nosotros, no podemos evitarla, no podemos decir que no existe, como lo hacen algunos gobiernos, que creo que es un error, y más bien vayamos a concientizar que esto genera desigualdad muy importante en nuestras ciudades y que por sobre todo la participación hace que el gobierno nacional, en nuestro caso de Cuenca, dio pie atrás a las licencias dadas para la explotación minera y hemos logrado de buena forma, aunque no creo que la batalla haya terminado, creo que sigue latente ahí, pero la ciudad y la gente puso un alto para poder proteger el páramo, la naturaleza y sobre todo recursos que el día de mañana ningún oro ni ningún petróleo va a poderlo sustituir. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, alcalde, por compartirnos esta experiencia que es tan relevante, digo, como guía política a seguir para nuestra agenda, también tremendamente emotiva, porque te hace darte cuenta de que a veces nos movemos dentro de una narrativa que no es real, que no es lo que sienten las personas, las poblaciones, y que esa monetización de la que hablaba Claire Hart, que ahora está influyendo tantas agendas, al final en las casas, entre los vecinos, en los corazones de la gente, ocupa un lugar más pequeño cuando miran al futuro y a la vida, ¿no? Yo creo que es una responsabilidad importante el ejemplo tan pragmático, tan concreto de Cuenca, y comparto con usted, alcalde, no se acabó la batalla, habrá que seguirla dando, pero si se une todo el movimiento municipalista a esa lógica, entonces la batalla será más fácil. Muchísimas gracias, alcalde, nos sigue inspirando siempre. Y ahora permítanme que vaya a Meritxell Budó, presidenta de la Asociación Catalana de Municipios. Nos encanta tenerla con nosotros. Y después voy a ir a Fernando Grey, el alcalde el intendente de Esteban Echevarría. Meritxell, qué gusto saludarte. Feliz año. Bienvenida.
Igualmente, feliz año para todos. Muchas gracias, Emilia, secretaria general, señoras y señores. Gracias por invitarme a participar en este Consejo Político y por situar el debate sobre los sistemas alimentarios y el hambre cero. Desde la Asociación Catalana de Municipios, que represento, compartimos plenamente que el acceso a la alimentación no es solo una cuestión sectorial, sino que es un eje central de derechos, de justicia social y también de cohesión territorial. De hecho, coincidimos en que la alimentación debe ser tratada como un bien público y como un derecho humano fundamental. El acceso a alimentos sanos, a alimentos suficientes, asequibles y culturalmente adecuados es, creemos, una condición básica para la dignidad humana y para el ejercicio de otros derechos. Cuando este acceso falla, no solo vulnera el derecho a la alimentación, sino que se debilita la igualdad, la salud pública y también la cohesión social. Creemos firmemente que los sistemas alimentarios deben construirse desde abajo, deben estar arraigados en lo local. Los sistemas alimentarios no pueden diseñarse únicamente desde lógicas globales, deben partir de las realidades locales, garantizando dignidad para los productores, equidad para los consumidores y sostenibilidad para el conjunto de nuestro planeta. Los gobiernos locales, de hecho, somos el nivel institucional más cercano a la ciudadanía y por ello tenemos un papel estructural en la construcción de estos sistemas alimentarios que queremos resilientes, inclusivos y sostenibles. En Cataluña, permítanme que les explique que muchos municipios estamos intentando avanzar en esta dirección utilizando, por ejemplo, la compra pública como una herramienta estratégica. En el caso de los comedores escolares, las guarderías, las residencias de personas mayores o los servicios sociales, incorporamos estos criterios de proximidad, de temporalidad y también de sostenibilidad. Y esto nos permite garantizar una alimentación más saludable, socialmente también más sostenible y al mismo tiempo nos permite ofrecer estabilidad económica y dignidad a la pequeña y a la mediana producción local. Aquí también me gustaría poner como ejemplo un programa que le llamamos Un àpat al día, una comida al día, en la que todos los colegios, a través de los ayuntamientos, a través de unas subvenciones que damos los ayuntamientos, garantizamos que todos los niños al menos tengan una comida caliente al día. También trabajamos en la línea de reforzar los vínculos entre el mundo rural y el mundo urbano y esto creemos que es esencial para reducir la dependencia de cadenas globales. La autosuficiencia territorial es un objetivo relevante, pero también debe entenderse de forma complementaria a la interacción con los mercados exteriores que, bien gestionados, pueden también mejorar la competitividad y reforzar la resiliencia del sistema alimentario. Desde la ACM defendemos que los sistemas alimentarios locales sean reconocidos y reforzados. Desde los gobiernos locales apostamos claramente por sistemas alimentarios de proximidad, porque es en el territorio donde se genera riqueza, se diversifica la economía y se construye la cohesión social. También creemos, y ya voy acabando, que es fundamental situar la seguridad alimentaria como una cuestión central de los derechos humanos, la justicia social y la cohesión territorial. Por ello, reclamamos los gobiernos locales que los acuerdos comerciales internacionales incorporen criterios ambientales, incorporen criterios sociales y también territoriales claros para que no entren en contradicción con los objetivos de justicia climática ni con el refuerzo de los sistemas alimentarios locales. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, alcaldesa y presidenta. Gracias también por no solamente identificar temáticas que están muy cercanas a la Carta de Seguridad Alimentaria, pero también por traer esa visión colectiva, ¿no? de colaboración entre municipios, y de eso se trata obviamente entre las asociaciones y federaciones, que realmente vemos como un gran pilar de nuestro movimiento. Y gracias también por darnos este mandato de poner en el centro de la agenda el papel tan importante que pueden cumplir los gobiernos locales y regionales, no solo en el acceso al alimento, no solo en respetar el medio ambiente, pero también en hablar de calidad. Es que no hablamos lo suficiente de la calidad alimentaria, y es algo que en la ciudad de Konya, en la ciudad de Chefchaouen, y también con los puntos que usted ha traído a la mesa, queda muy, muy reforzado, y eso me alegra mucho, y estoy segura de que a nuestros socios de la FAO también les va a gustar que profundicemos en eso. Muchísimas gracias, por tanto. Y ahora pues me voy con nuestro vicepresidente para América Latina, el intendente de Esteban Echevarría, Fernando Gray, que siempre es un gran defensor de las agendas colectivas, también en momentos en donde los contextos continentales, incluso nacionales, no son tan obvios o tan fáciles o tan defensores de esas mismas agendas. Nos gusta mucho que esté con nosotros. Muchísimas gracias, intendente. Bienvenido.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes, Emilia, a ti y a todo el equipo. Quiero saludar especialmente a quienes me precedieron, que es el alcalde de Coño, Guri Ibrahim Altay, al alcalde de Cuenca, Cristian Zamora, bueno, a la alcaldesa que hablaba recién de la Asociación Catalana de Municipios, y agradecerte, Emilia, a ti y a todo el equipo, porque siempre están súper organizados, la verdad que todo en perfecto forma, lugar, y cada uno con el equilibrio necesario para debatir temas tan importantes de la agenda. Así que muchas gracias, Emilia, y al equipo. Y bueno, quiero saludar a todas las lideresas y líderes de los gobiernos locales y regionales que participan de este proceso de articulación de los consejos políticos y de construcción colectiva de la coalición social local. Como sabemos y hemos enumerado en muchas oportunidades, según las Naciones Unidas, para el 2050 casi el 70%.
Hemos perdido el sonido, no sé si soy solamente yo. Presidente, ¿me oye?
Ahí va.
Ahí va, perfecto.
Ahí va. Bueno, según las Naciones Unidas, para el 2050, casi el 70% de la población mundial vivirá en zonas urbanas, y en este contexto las ciudades concentran el mayor consumo de alimentos a nivel global. Por eso la alimentación es y seguirá siendo un aspecto central en la agenda política de los gobiernos locales. La desnutrición, especialmente entre niños y niñas, continúa siendo un desafío para nuestra región. Al mismo tiempo, de manera paradójica, el sobrepeso y la obesidad en la población sudamericana siguen estando por encima de la media mundial. Estos problemas no pueden resolverse únicamente desde los actores de la nutrición ni como resultado indirecto del crecimiento económico o la reducción de la pobreza. Los ciudadanos tenemos un rol directo en la respuesta a estos desafíos. Reforzar la capacidad de los gobiernos locales en materia de políticas alimentarias y nutricionales es central para garantizar la disponibilidad y el consumo de alimentos más sanos y nutritivos para quienes habitan nuestras ciudades. Sudamérica se ha destacado positivamente en la lucha contra el hambre y la inseguridad alimentaria. Sin embargo, las desigualdades locales siguen teniendo un profundo impacto, especialmente en las poblaciones más vulnerables. El hambre y la inseguridad alimentaria continúan afectando más a las mujeres que los hombres, aun cuando esa brecha mostró una tendencia a la baja. En este sentido, y más allá de su diversidad y heterogeneidad, los sistemas alimentarios de América del Sur comparten características estructurales: exclusión, degradación y agotamiento de los recursos naturales, concentración del capital, la infraestructura y la tecnología, predominio del monocultivo de exportación, dificultades de abastecimiento, concentración de los canales de comercialización, dietas inadecuadas y hábitos de consumos insostenibles junto a precios elevados. De manera convergente, la crisis climática se reconoce hoy como una consecuencia directa de modelos de sobreproducción y sobreconsumo sistémicos. Para enfrentar este escenario, los gobiernos locales debemos liderar una transición justa que nos permita alejarnos de modelos explotadores y avanzar hacia una cultura del cuidado y solidaridad. La acción climática debe fomentar una relación resiliente y equilibrada entre la humanidad y los ecosistemas que habitamos, asegurando que nadie quede atrás. Desde este lugar, considero fundamental hacer un llamado para que los gobiernos locales y regionales estemos en el centro de la acción por la justicia climática. La crisis climática no es un problema aislado, es un multiplicador sistémico de desigualdades, y todas las políticas climáticas deben defender especialmente a las mujeres y a las comunidades social y racialmente marginadas. Como hemos propuesto de manera conjunta desde Mercociudades y FLACMA en distintos foros vinculados a la acción climática, promovemos una agenda de acción desde los gobiernos locales sudamericanos que incluye alinear la planificación territorial con las contribuciones determinadas a nivel nacional y los planes nacionales de adaptación, fortalecer los servicios públicos relevantes para el clima, como el acceso al agua, la gestión de residuos, la movilidad y los sistemas de cuidado comunitario, implementar sistemas locales de monitoreo, reporte y verificación, promover soluciones regenerativas basadas en la naturaleza, desarrollar vías territoriales de financiamiento climático e integrar una gobernanza feminista, descolonizada y liderada por la comunidad. Quiero finalizar remarcando que a todas y todos quienes formamos parte de Mercociudades nos une el compromiso con la cooperación, el trabajo mancomunado y un mismo objetivo: construir un mundo más justo, igualitario, pacífico y sostenible para las personas y el planeta. Emilia, y a todo el equipo, muchas gracias desde aquí. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, intendente. Realmente no puedo pensar en una mejor manera de conectar las temáticas que nos ocupan en este gran pacto social que nos ayuda a articular los resultados de nuestro Congreso. Y le agradezco en particular por tocar temas muy delicados como es, por ejemplo, la cuestión del monocultivo, que es una realidad de gran importancia, ese monocultivo dedicado a la exportación. En Argentina hay gran experiencia con eso, pero también en puntos de África sufrimos mucho y es un elemento muy importante de la inseguridad alimentaria, pero también temáticas como la obesidad. Y le he perdonado que tomar un poquito más de tiempo por traer el feminismo a esta mesa. Eso se lo he de confesar. Muchísimas gracias. Allow me now to go to Mayor Ahmed Taraz, Mayor of Mugla, a new participant in our policy councils. We had the opportunity to see each other not that long ago and exchange a little bit on priorities. I am very happy, Mayor, that you are able to join us today. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Emilia. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm new here, but I feel myself among my friends. Thank you very much. It's a great honor and privilege to take the floor in this important gathering, representing many coastal communities of the Eastern Mediterranean that stand at the front line of the climate crisis. Dear friends, I would like to begin by sincerely thanking the UCLG World Secretariat for convening this timely discussion. In this context, working closely with UCLG toward the upcoming World Congress in Tangier in June 2026 is of great value to us. Actively contributing to all discussions constitutes on one of the highest priorities of our international relations agenda this year. Dear colleagues, I'm also stand here today as the president of the Coastal Aegean Municipalities Union. Together with 115 member cities, we strongly believe that this solidarity between people of Turkey and world cities needs to be kept alive. With its 1,500 kilometers of coastline, Muğla hosts a unique marine and forest biodiversity. And Muğla enjoys a vibrant tourism and agricultural economy. The Mediterranean basin, where Muğla is located, is one of the most vulnerable regions to global climate change. Climate risks experienced in Muğla include heat waves, forest fires, floods, sea level rise, water scarcity, drought, and losses in agricultural production. The tourism, agriculture, and fisheries sectors that dominate Muğla's economy are vulnerable to climate change. Citizens working particularly in agriculture and fisheries are among the most vulnerable groups. To ensure sustainable agriculture and fisheries, the resilience of these sectors needs to be strengthened. Dear climate advocates, Mula's freshwater resources are under serious threat in the short, medium, and long term due to climate change, air pollution, and also increasing drought. This pressure on water resources, which are an essential input for agriculture, tourism, and urban life, poses a critical risk to the sustainability of the local economy. Mining activities and coal power plants create additional and lasting pressure on existing water resources in our region. This situation directly affects not only ecosystems, but also producers, tourism workers, and the rural population. From the perspective of local governments, this picture entails a clear responsibility. We see the hosting of COP31 in Turkey this year as an important opportunity to address the coal power plant related issues in Muğla with a primary focus on achieving climate justice. Within this framework, we are carrying out the preparations for COP31. Over the past 2 weeks, we have held 2 workshops titled Muğla Green Transition Roadmap. Last year, we organized the Muğla Town Hall COP, and the Muğla Climate Declaration, prepared by local stakeholders and NGOs, was published online in 4 languages. Climate justice and fossil fuel phase-out were among the key themes highlighted in the outcome declaration. This spring, we will repeat the conference to carry out monitoring and evaluation activities. Esteemed participants, policies, investments, and transformation programs aimed at increasing the resilience of the sectors that sustain the urban economy against climate change should be prioritized. Sustainable agriculture, nature-friendly tourism, and ecosystem-based fisheries practices should become core elements of local development through a water-centered approach. For all the reasons outlined above, climate justice, green transition, and the phase-out of fossil fuels are critical priorities for Muğla. Effectively addressing the impacts of climate change through mitigation and adaptation requires local, national, regional, and global efforts to be implemented through a truly multi-level and participatory approach. Muğla will always stand ready to support these efforts, but also to take a leading role in advancing climate action across the region. Thank you for your invitation and coordination to this important meeting. I send my best regards to all colleagues and Emilia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I think you did find home, indeed. Your inputs into this discussion are extremely important. We truly appreciate you bringing the voice of the organized network of coastal region municipalities. The Mediterranean, as you were describing, is a very critical environment for both political and nature-based solutions. So I'm really very grateful for your inputs, and I really hope that you will be identifying with the commitments and the recommendations we will be proposing together following this agenda. More to come, Mayor. Thank you so much. And allow me now to go to Octavio Caraballo, Deputy Minister of the Cabinet of the Presidency of the Government of the Canary Islands. Si hay alguien que comprende bien la importancia del agua, del mar y esa soberanía alimentaria y seguridad alimentaria, pues tiene que ser un gobierno como el de las Islas Canarias. O sea que realmente es un placer para nosotros que sigáis nuestro trabajo, que nos apoyéis en estas discusiones, y nos encanta poner esa perspectiva también aquí hoy en la mesa. O sea que bienvenido, muchísimas gracias Octavio por tu paciencia, y a ti la palabra.
Hola, muy buenas tardes ya, ¿no? En primer lugar, muchas gracias Emilia y muchas gracias a CLGU por invitarnos a participar en esta sesión, y quisiera aprovechar esta oportunidad para enviar un saludo especial a Fátima Tou Abdel Malik, porque en apenas 3 semanas volveremos a estar en su ciudad, en Nuakchot, para reforzar los vínculos entre nuestros dos territorios. No la conozco personalmente y espero poder hacerlo en este viaje. Después del viaje que hemos realizado esta tarde por Turquía, Ecuador, Argentina o Francia, a mí me toca pasar, como comentaba Emilia, de los continentes a las islas. Territorios muy distintos, especialmente cuando hablamos sobre justicia climática o seguridad alimentaria. Quisiera empezar esta reunión haciendo referencia al contexto en el que vivimos, muy marcado por la deriva política de la que somos testigos, y la necesidad de que foros como este se consoliden como una de las recetas necesarias para consolidar nuestros valores democráticos frente al autoritarismo y la ruptura con los derechos que pactamos globalmente hace 80 años. Desde Canarias queremos trasladar una idea clara. No puede haber resiliencia territorial, cohesión social ni seguridad real sin soberanía alimentaria. Hoy los sistemas alimentarios han dejado de ser una cuestión sectorial, ser una cuestión de poder, de autonomía y de seguridad, y en un contexto internacional marcado por conflictos, crisis climáticas y disrupciones en las cadenas de suministro, la capacidad de producir alimentos propios se ha convertido en un elemento estratégico. La propia Unión Europea, que hoy apuesta por reforzar la seguridad y su capacidad de defensa, no puede ignorar en sus políticas que la alimentación forma parte del ámbito de la seguridad. Sin soberanía alimentaria, los territorios son muy frágiles y vulnerables ante futuras crisis comerciales, logísticas o geopolíticas. Desde Canarias defendemos que la alimentación debe ser entendida como un bien público y un derecho humano efectivo, no como una mercancía sometida exclusivamente a las reglas del mercado. El desarrollo no puede medirse solo en términos económicos si no garantiza dignidad, capacidades y acceso real a derechos básicos. Y el derecho a la alimentación es uno de ellos. Canarias es una región fragmentada e insular con una altísima dependencia exterior y una exposición directa al cambio climático y a las tensiones del comercio global. Pero también es un territorio con enormes potencialidades, una biodiversidad excepcional, suelos volcánicos de alto valor agronómico, un entorno marino rico y un conocimiento científico y tradicional acumulado durante generaciones. Lejos de ser una periferia pasiva, Canarias es un laboratorio avanzado en resiliencia. Por eso, para los territorios insulares, la soberanía alimentaria no es una opción ideológica, sino una política de seguridad y de supervivencia. No se trata de producir más a cualquier precio, sino de garantizar alimentos suficientes, saludables, culturalmente adecuados y accesibles para toda la población. Reducir la dependencia exterior no es proteccionismo en nuestro caso, es una responsabilidad pública. Nada de esto será posible sin las personas. Sin relevo generacional y sin empleo digno en el sector primario, no hay ni habrá soberanía alimentaria. En este sentido, Canarias puede y debe aprovechar los flujos migratorios. Introduzco aquí otra realidad que vivimos muchos de los que hemos hablado en esta sesión. Ofrecer a los flujos migratorios la oportunidad real para integrarse en la agricultura y la pesca, fortaleciendo el arraigo territorial, la cohesión social y la integración. Además, no podemos obviar un dato clave. Canarias alimenta cada año a millones de personas. El año pasado recibimos 18 millones de turistas en un territorio con 2 millones de habitantes. Esta presión exige una planificación responsable que reserve suelos, recursos y políticas públicas para producir alimentos tanto en tierra como en el mar y que refuerce nuestra capacidad de respuesta ante crisis externas. Por todo ello afirmamos que la soberanía alimentaria es hoy tan estratégica como la soberanía energética o tecnológica. Garantizar alimentos propios es garantizar autonomía, estabilidad y capacidad de decisión. En un mundo donde el antiguo orden internacional se está descomponiendo y las certezas han desaparecido, tenemos la oportunidad y la responsabilidad de construir sistemas alimentarios más justos, resilientes y sostenibles, no como una aspiración abstracta, sino como una política pública imprescindible para garantizar el derecho a la alimentación, la seguridad territorial y la dignidad de nuestras comunidades. Si no decidimos cómo producimos nuestros alimentos, cada uno en nuestros territorios, otros decidirán por nosotros. Si no participamos en las decisiones sobre nuestra alimentación, acabaremos sometidos a las decisiones de otros. Por eso es importante actuar desde lo local, un nivel de gobierno más próximo a la ciudadanía, cuyas instituciones tienen un conocimiento más real y cercano de lo que ocurre en sus territorios y de las necesidades concretas de su población. Termino. La soberanía alimentaria no es una consigna, es una línea roja. Es decidir si queremos ser territorios con capacidad de futuro o simples espacios de consumo dependientes de decisiones ajenas. No hay neutralidad posible. O fortalecemos nuestros sistemas alimentarios locales o aceptamos una fragilidad estructural que nos deja y nos dejará expuestos a cada crisis global. Muchas gracias a todos y a todas.
Muchísimas gracias por esa visión desde las islas, pero también por esa contundencia, ¿no? en identificar lo que tienen que ser las prioridades de las políticas públicas. Y a mí me gusta mucho que en este debate esté quedando tan claro que pensar en seguridad alimentaria y en soberanía alimentaria no deja fuera colaboraciones, no deja fuera relaciones con otros territorios, no deja fuera el comercio, sino que construye ese valor de los comunes de una manera diferente y aborda pues los derechos humanos también de una forma muy clara y me alegra mucho que hayas traído a colación también el tema migratorio, porque solo hace unos días teníamos una sesión de aprendizaje sobre la relación de la cuestión laboral, ¿no? de la regularidad laboral y los flujos migratorios que creo son de gran importancia. Muchísimos temas que podemos aprender con Canarias y espero que te hayas sentido también en casa en cómo estamos abordando las temáticas. Esperamos que nos acompañéis de camino al Congreso como lo habéis hecho hoy y te deseo lo mejor en esa visita a Nuakchot porque además si no conoces en persona a la presidenta Fatimetu pues te estás perdiendo algo, ya verás, ya nos van a contar cómo es esa experiencia. Voy ahora a la ciudad de Niterói. Es un gusto realmente tener aquí con nosotros a nuestra amiga Isabel Swan, vicealcaldesa de Niterói. Qué gusto tenerte con nosotros, Isabel. A ti la palabra, bienvenida.
Muchas gracias, Emilia. Gracias por... Voy a hablar en inglés, ¿vale?
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I'm representing the city of Niterói, representing the mayor Rodrigo Neves, and as a vice mayor and also secretary of climate of the city of Niterói, I speak from a territory already living in climate crisis. We faced a dry season during 3 months last year that hit us with a lot of fire in our mountains. And we know that we are facing now a period of strong raining times. So we are much more resilient city than we were 10 years ago. Actually, we invested more than R$1 billion in content of the mountains because most of the vulnerable citizens, they live in this area. So this work we've been doing this for a long time since the government is staying in Niterói for a long period. Now Rodrigo Neves is staying for the third period. And this is impact a lot in our city because we can think in high terms, long-term policies. Okay, so climate change is disproportionately warms the most vulnerable communities in Niterói. Floods, heat waves, landslides, and food insecurity affect low-income areas first and hardest, particularly in the north and east of the city. Women, often heads of households, are among the most impacted ones, bearing the greatest socio-economic and care burdens. Actually, we do have a coin here in Niterói that calls Moeda Araribóia. This coin, it's utilized, we can use only in the city for the poorest part of the population. So we have 120,000 citizens using this coin to be able to buy food in only local commerces or supermarkets. So we are increasing the economic side of the city because we are supporting the program. We are not giving money for the city. We are giving money straight. We are using a local coin called Moeda Araribóia to guarantee access of food for the population which is more poor. And we guarantee also good food in our schools. We have three times of how can I say, my English is not so it's not my first language, but we offer fruits and good quality fruits, fresh fruits for our youngs. And also we are developing a program of educational program for climate ambassadors, because we know that we need to hit the next generation and make them pretty aware of what we are facing. So this is something that we've been working on last year, and we want to implement as a pilot in this year in Niterói. So education for the next generation, it's number one, and needs to be hold and offer in our schools. Also, we want to have a diagnosis about our situation in carbon emissions, okay, in our city, because Brazil do have a plan in 2050 to stop the carbon emissions and to make it equal, okay, to make it neutralized. So we want to do an inventory of the city so we can focus on transportation and also garbage recycling, garbage recycling, which is a big task for us because we are a bit behind in this aspect, okay? And I want to highlight also another program that we are launching, which calls Vida Nova no Morro. This program, it's a very important one because in our favelas, in our slums, we want to guarantee safe houses, safe housing. So with bathroom, because we still have a lot of problems with storage and cleaning the water. Besides, we have a great, I would say, we are one of the first city taking care of the water in Brazil, but we still have a lot of challenges. So we want to guarantee with this program that people have access to bathroom and the houses are safe, because we are going to act by territory to guarantee good housing, because if you want to really impact lives, you need to guarantee a good habitational system, a good housing first. So this is something that will take it's a huge project from Rodrigo, and it will take more than 8 years. But for sure, we are facing this challenge because this is something that it's number one priority, so we can leave a legacy. And that's it. There is for sure enhanced opportunity for the women's, for gender equality. They are most of them are the leaders of the houses. Guarantee opportunities, guarantee good food in our schools, and this special coin called Arariboia that means a lot for us, because it guarantees that people won't be starving and be able to buy food at the local commerce.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really very, very interesting, all-encompassing proposals and policies that you are developing. I am particularly grateful for the inputs around that local currency that you are referring to, that allows people to actually buy and also enhance the local commerce. So it is at the same time ensuring food quality, but also local commerce. Very interesting ideas around local currencies. Thank you for bringing that, and thank you also for bringing the youth aspect, the issue of youth becoming ambassadors. But I would also say it is important to educate youth around the rights that they have, and youth need to play a very, very important role in making climate justice a reality, understanding what it means to hold governments and society accountable, to hold each of us accountable for the future of the planet and our own humanity. So wonderful to hear from Niteroi. This has been a very rich exchange. We are coming to the end of the session, and I want to provide the opportunity to President Fatimetou Abdelmalik to come back with some thoughts about what she has heard, some of the ideas that are coming up. I know she wanted to share some thoughts with us, and then we are going back to Isis and to Lauren as well for a quick feedback on how they have received the priorities and the message from the political leadership. Madame la Présidente, merci d'être là encore avec nous. D'être aussi parmi nous pour, je dirais, renforcer notre agenda de la point de vue de l'Afrique. Aussi, on n'a pas eu beaucoup de voix africaines aujourd'hui, mais la dernière fois, il y avait une grande représentation. Ravi de vous avoir encore avec nous. Madame la Présidente, à vous la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Emilia. Je porte la voix, comme tu sais, de toute l'Afrique, donc c'est déjà ça. Hein? Donc c'est l'occasion pour moi aussi de souhaiter la bienvenue à Monsieur Deléon. Octave, vous êtes les bienvenus à Nouakchott. Hein? Et d'ailleurs, j'invite tous les autres collègues à visiter la Mauritanie, à visiter Nouakchott particulièrement. Merci beaucoup. Alors, pour rebondir un peu sur ce que vous venez de dire, Emilia, je pense qu'on doit s'accorder sur deux choses. La première, c'est que on est tous d'accord que la justice climatique est une question de droit, c'est une question d'équité. La deuxième chose, c'est qu'on ne peut pas dissocier la lutte contre les changements climatiques de la lutte contre les inégalités, parce qu'elles sont intimement liées. Et pour cela, nous avons répertorié 3 injustices que je vais vous livrer. Bien sûr, il y a plusieurs formes d'injustice, mais là, moi, je vais vous livrer 3 seulement. La première, c'est qu'il y a une injustice géographique. Et là, je vais venir pour porter la voix de l'Afrique pour dire que seulement 10% des plus riches de par le monde produisent plus de 50% des émissions de CO2, au moment où la moitié de la population mondiale ne produit que 10% des émissions de CO2. Donc là, déjà, il y a une injustice. Donc nous, au niveau des pays d'ici, nous subissons les effets du changement climatique pour des choses pour lesquelles on n'a pas les pollueurs. Il y a des pollueurs ailleurs. Et j'en sais quelque chose parce que mon pays, la Mauritanie, subit ces effets du changement climatique et ma ville, particulièrement Nouakchott, subit aussi ces changements climatiques à travers l'avancée des déserts, mais aussi la remontée du niveau de la mer. Donc elle est très vulnérable à cause de ça. La deuxième injustice que je vais vous livrer, c'est qu'il y a une injustice sociale. Et là, vous connaissez sans doute, on l'a dit ici, donc il y a les groupes vulnérables qui sont les plus affectés, et particulièrement les femmes. Et là, je vais encore donner un exemple en Afrique. La femme en Afrique, par exemple, compte tenu du stress hydrique, le stress hydrique qui est causé, accentué par les changements climatiques, les femmes en Afrique, pour la corvée de l'eau, par exemple, elles font des dizaines de kilomètres, elles font plusieurs kilomètres pour aller ramener l'eau, à la fois pour cuire les aliments, mais pour alimenter la famille en eau. Mais aussi pour les bois de chauffe. Elle fait des dizaines de kilomètres pour retrouver le bois de la chauffe. Donc, elles assistent de façon délibérée à une destruction des ressources naturelles. Donc, ces femmes. Donc, il y a une insécurité alimentaire qui est induite, mais il y a aussi un problème de santé qui est induit. Tout à l'heure, on n'a pas évoqué les réfugiés climatiques, on a dit sommairement les migrations, mais il y a des réfugiés climatiques à cause justement des effets de ces changements climatiques. La dernière injustice que je vais évoquer, c'est qu'il y a une injustice intergénérationnelle. C'est-à-dire, autrement dit, nous sommes en train de laisser une dette extrêmement lourde pour des générations futures pour laquelle ils n'y sont pour rien. Donc, les jeunes qui sont la relève, particulièrement les jeunes filles, elles sont en train de subir. Nous sommes en train de leur donner une dette, de leur laisser une dette pour laquelle ils ne sont pour rien. Alors, et pour cela, pour remédier à tout ça, moi je propose, là je vais avancer 3 choses. La première, c'est que on ne peut pas dissocier aussi la justice climatique de la solidarité financière. Et pour cela, il faut nécessairement rendre opérationnel le fonds des pertes et dommages qu'on avait retenu à la COP de Dubaï. Donc, il faut justement pour aider les villes, pour qu'il y ait une prise en charge. On l'a dit ici, on a dit que les villes, c'est le premier niveau de réponse. Donc, il faut nécessairement qu'on puisse les aider et ce fonds, il faut qu'il soit opérationnel. La deuxième chose que je propose, c'est qu'on doit nécessairement opposer au pays aussi une justice, reconsidérer la responsabilité juridique des pays, des États. La troisième chose, c'est qu'il faut obliger les États et les entreprises à agir positivement. Autrement dit, à aussi respecter leurs engagements. Et là, je vais respecter le temps de parole. Encore une fois, je vous remercie et bonne et heureuse année à tous et à toutes. Merci.
Un grand merci, Madame la Présidente, pour ces réflexions très importantes. Et je vais naturellement confirmer qu'on prend note. Et je pense que ça fera partie des conclusions qu'on va mettre aussi dans le cadre des congrès de Tanger. Et la question de solidarité financière, c'est justement une grande partie de notre dossier sur la justice climatique. Ça s'agit de ça. Donc, merci. Très, très apprécié. And now allow me to go back. I was warning that I wanted to give the floor back to Lauren and to Isis. I mean, it's not every day that you are into a direct dialogue in a safe space among political leaders that are discussing the topics of the agenda that you care about most. So I'm curious to hear. We don't have much time left, but some brief feedback on what you think should be the next steps and first impressions on the path that these letters are taking and where the agenda is carrying us. Lauren, do you want to start?
Thank you, Emilia, and thank you to everyone that we've heard from today. We've heard from such a range of representatives geographically, and yet what strikes me is that so many of the same issues are emerging. We're seeing that around the world, no matter necessarily the geographical context, it is the same vulnerable communities that are being affected the most. I have to say a massive thank you to the Madam President who just spoke, because you almost took the words out of my mouth in many of the things that you said. Particularly in terms of the geographical injustice, this is something that I think is beginning to emerge as a key geopolitical element of climate negotiations, and is something that I think we need to keep in the forefront of our minds going forward. And in terms of climate refugees, this is something that, again, we're seeing is both a response to and also going to be worsening in terms of the fact that it's often migrants who are already the most vulnerable to climate change impacts. And this is only going to get worse the more and more the issue increases and the more that climate refugees are emerging. So this is something that, again, I think needs to remain a priority. Interestingly, you mentioned legal accountability mechanisms, and this is something that is very close to my heart as someone who works on ecocide law, and talking about how it is that we can hold big actors to account. And I think that this is potentially, in terms of international law, one of the most exciting things currently emerging, because it allows us to shift the historical power imbalance away from countries who have historically been the ones committing ecocide, committing environmental damage, big corporations who have taken away the sovereignty of regions and states from control over their natural resources. And so a shift from that through the massive growth that we've seen in the recognition of ecocide law, that's massive. And I think something that we need to consider at the local level as well, how this can be engaged in that conversation. And finally, just to say that in terms of financing, this is an issue that we face on every level of the issues we want to address. But I will say that I think we are seeing significant progress in at least the acknowledgement that it's an essential element to these discussions, and that finance and climate can't be separated. I also think that the ICJ advisory opinion provides a really strong legal basis for leveraging funding, particularly at the local level. And so I think for the sake of time, I will leave this here today, but just to say thank you so much to everyone who's engaged in these conversations, to the UCLG Secretariat for convening this, and that we should continue to prioritize those who are least heard in these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Isis, few comments from your side.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, congratulations for... sorry, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. I don't think it's you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you and congratulations again. I've been truly inspired to hear your interventions, your examples. I think sometimes when we talk about food systems and as it's so broad and so many different entry points, sometimes it can sound abstract. But of course, when you're talking with local governments, you're really hearing from what is happening in people's daily lives and what you can actually do to secure that food as a right, and especially that angle of dignity back to food. And that for me is the first thing that struck me the most, how every single intervention focused on not only mentioning the food as a right and dignity around food, but actually show concrete examples. I mean, Catalonia spoke about public procurement as a very transformational lever to bring not only access to food, but access to healthy food, to good quality food. We heard from Niteroi as well, using a very innovative local currency, precisely targeted to those that are, the ones that are left behind, usually in these cases. So we hear different types of innovation as well, and very glad to hear from Canarias as well, because there we really see the intersection of food security, the sustainability and resilience of food systems, and the climate crisis as well. So very interesting to see that layer of issues coming into place. From the mayor of Esteban Echevarria, really like your intervention, also focusing on the need to strengthen the capacities at the local level on food policy. Here we have a lot to learn from experiences around this area. And as FAO, we're really glad to work with you on that as well. It's very, very important to strengthen food policy at the local level and then bring that and link it to national level as well. I think those issues are very much resonate with the 2 points I mentioned in terms of multi-level governance, but also being very transformative in the way that we use entry points like public procurement, like school meals, and different common goods and services that we can really use to transform the food system. And here I see a very important role of local governments. As FAO, we're very ready to support and also to convene more actors around this area through a global partnership as well.
Thank you so much. We really look forward to that, to continuing this conversation. I am closing this session with a very strong feeling that in these very complex and sensitive issues, they have big political implications, and they mean taking some very clear risks in terms of public policy. Our membership is willing to go really far. So I am very happy about that. I see that there is no topic that is that they want to shy away from, that the legal framework comes up so clearly in climate justice, that the link is being made between equality, migration, refugees, and the topic of climate change, I think, is extremely important. I can clearly see that the loss and damage agenda is important for our membership, not only as a compensation, but truly as a moral stand as well, on how we need to be accountable for the changes that we are bringing about in our ecosystems and in our planets, and I think that really can help us redefine governance on these topics. And I am also very happy to see that the whole discussion around food systems and zero hunger is not only about access to food, but about a higher, bigger, or a clearer implication on the food chain, on the food cycle, and the link between urban and rural communities. So I feel as if the mandate is confirmed and maybe challenged in some ways. I trust that in the coming months there will be written exchanges on the letters. We have a very important moment to connect on the topics again, which is the UCLG retreat, where we will be looking at these topics with other partners and some of the members that are not fully part of the policy councils, but that also need to enrich the discussions. And then we will be bringing a new draft to the Executive Bureau. so that they can confirm their willingness to see this ratified at the Congress as an outcome document and going through our World Council and Assembly. So a clear path ahead, wonderful set of partners in this process. Look, there is hope for the world. There are good things happening, and we know what we need to do. So I thank you all very much. I wish you well. We have another one coming up, one more policy council. We are delighted that you are participating. Please do send your comments on writing. Be well, take care, don't despair, right? It's about holding and knowing what we need to do. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Good evening.
Good evening. A pleasure, Mayor. Bye.